Hello, fellow Robo Capitals. Hope you're well. So we have new jobs data again today. And actually, let me go ahead and show you exactly what the U.S. job market looks like right now. We're going to cut to it. This is all you need to know. There we go. Josh, can you see this?
Yeah.
This is a visual image of the U.S. job market, basically going from establishment survey to establishment survey. Like, oh, we're getting weak. We're getting weak. Help me, establishment survey. Okay, great. Whoo, good. We're getting weak. We're getting weak. The next establishment survey, beat expectations. And then everything in between is just shaky, to say the least. All right. So what is the data? What, all jokes aside, although I think that is a good visual representation of not only the U.S. jobs market, but probably the U.S. economy for that matter. But let's get into the hard data right here. We'll go over to Zero Hedge first and foremost, and probably go over to the BLS. I don't know that we'll need to, but here we go. So what I don't know if love is the right word, but what's been entertaining, let's say, let me blow this up, about Zero Hedge ever since Trump got into office is, man, oh man, have they become political. Woo! You know, they were just kind of contrarian and a little bearish, absolutely, and kind of lean toward inflation and gold and kind of the sound money narrative. But now it's just, my goodness gracious, whatever, they've done a complete 180. So whatever makes Trump look good, that's what they're going to push. But hey, that's their decision. Whatever. They still have some good articles, and I still like the guys over there. I just wish they would come out and say, "Hey, look, we're this is not really our opinion. We changed our opinion completely, not because the data changed or we changed our worldview, but simply now because we have a press pass in the White House." Let's just call a spade here. Anyway, okay. So, and the reason I say this is because look at this number: blowout June payrolls, 147. Okay. Whoa, time out here, Zeri. We got to pump the brakes a little bit there. Did it exceed expectations? Absolutely, it did. Was it a blowout? No, it's 147 for. In fact, look at the chart they use to show the blowout number. It's like, huh? Well, let me go ahead and zoom in. Let me get my binoculars in there so I can see that blowout number. It's a little too small. This is a blowout number. Nah, that's not a blowout number. That's the exact same as we had last month, which in of itself was weak. Although, to be fair, higher than expectations. You have to remember that we're in an economy of 350 million people. 147 jobs added, even if that's a correct number, that is not keeping up with the population growth. So based on the population, sure, you can massage the numbers, let's say, with the labor force participation. We'll get into that in a moment. But 147 is a terrible number. Terrible number. Now, it doesn't mean that the economy's in a crisis or we're in an economic contraction even. But it just means that the economy is not doing well. It's just stuck in the mud. It's definitely not running on all 8 cylinders. It's very, very shaky. like that GIF. It's very much like this. That's what those numbers tell us. Okay, getting back to Zero Hedge here. Okay, they talk about the economists and how wrong the expectations were. Okay, we get that. Now, what was really interesting, Zero Hedge points out, is the unemployment rate went from 4.2 down to 4.1. They say, that's weird. I mean, only 147, George. If you're saying that's not a great number, then how on earth did the unemployment rate go down? Because most people think that they're kind of one and the same, and they're not, because the unemployment number is based on the household survey. And so when we look at the household survey, in fact, let's shoot over to the BLS. We'll do that right now. And we scroll down here, household data. So let me zoom in so it's easier for you guys to see. And we have a plus. We just go straight down to the employed. We had a plus 93,000. Now that in and of itself would not have moved the needle, I don't think, on the unemployment number. It still might have even gone up to 4.3. But what we had here is, once again, a huge decline. Not a huge decline, but we had a decline in the labor force participation. So we had 130,000 people leave the workforce, which I don't know how you could argue that's good. And then we had 93,000 additional people employed. So on net balance, you know, sure, the unemployment rate goes down, but is that really a good thing when you look at it and we have fewer people working than we had before, fewer people being productive, actually producing? Probably not. I mean, even if you want to argue, well, all these people are leaving the workforce because they're retiring and it's all about demographics. I mean, okay, I get it. That's definitely a contributing factor. But even if that's 100% of it, which I don't think it is, but even if it's 100% of it, still those people are going to be spending a lot less other than healthcare. Okay, so now let's go back to Zero Hedge because they do get some very good details here. Kind of they when we check beneath the hood. Here they talk about labor force participation. Okay, now to summarize this, let's see here. Let me just go to their bullet points and we're going to go over to the calendar because that gives us some more data in addition to the jobs report, such as the initial claims. And I think that's probably one of the best leading indicators as to how the job market's doing. And the non-farm payrolls, really a good confirming indicator. So if you get that non-farm negative, that's a pretty good sign you're probably in a recession, not headed for one. And then when you start to see the initial claims really start blowing out, then that usually means you're headed for the negative non-farm payrolls. Okay, so first bullet point here. In June, the number of long-term unemployed, those jobless 27 weeks increased. Okay, so long-term unemployed increased. Not too good here. The number of people employed part-time for economic reasons, little change, but it's at 4.3 million. That ain't good. The number of people not in the labor force who currently want a job, 6 million. Although that's unchanged, that still ain't good. Among those not in the labor force who want a job, the number of people marginally attached to the labor force increased by 234,000. That ain't good. It's like check, check, check. Where's the good part here? The number of discouraged workers, a subset of marginally attached who believe there's no jobs were available for them, increased by 256,000. And that's a huge increase because it takes it to 60. So that's like a 25. Am I getting that right? Yeah, maybe actually probably a little bit more than that. Yeah, probably more than a 25% increase. In fact, way more than a 20. What am I thinking? If the total number is 637,000 and it increased by 256,000 just this month? Wait a minute. I'm thinking this through out loud. Time out. That's a 50% increase. Wow. Okay. Now here is where we really get into the nitty-gritty because as most of you would agree, it's not necessarily about total jobs, more so about private sector jobs. Private sector. This is key. So government employment rose by 73,000. Now it is true this is mostly state because federal government declined by 7,000. But although I think it's fantastic, the federal government jobs declined by 7,000. Is it that great when government jobs in total went up by 73 just because of all the hiring in state and local? I mean, I don't know. Is a federal government job that much worse than a state government job? I don't know. I don't really think so. Although it is good, I think the state's rights are great, but I guess that's a separate topic. I would prefer to have the government or the power of the government much more in the states than I would at the federal level. But I don't know that I would argue a state government job is just 10 times better than a federal government job. Healthcare added 39,000. That I think we're going to continue to see that even in a recession because of demographics. Go back to that. So this chart, federal jobs. Okay, we got that. Native born foreign. Of course, they're going to hit on that because that's a Trump thing. What was it? So foreign born down, native born up. It looks like. Last but not least, and perhaps most important. Come on, zero hedge. Really? That's the most important thing here. So if the non-farm payroll was negative 300,000, the most important part of that report would be how many foreign workers. And I mean, come on. Okay, it's important, but let's be clear here. The headline number is by far the most important. So anyway, native born workers surged by 830,000, while foreign born tumbled by 348,000. Okay, to the lowest of the year. So good. I mean, if you're someone that is all about, I mean, I'm all about legal immigration. That's for sure. I mean, we can't have people here that are breaking the law. I don't know that that would be my optimal scenarios of having a welfare state, basically with these, massive draconian borders. But I prefer that other than a welfare state, which is letting everyone in. That's for sure. And it's all about rule of law at the end of the day. So if this is a reflection of the rule of law being enforced, then I think this is good. Oh, rate cut expectations. Yeah, let's go over to that because as you guys know, recently from my videos, I've been talking about the signals that I've gotten from the dollar quite literally crashing this year. I mean, I would go so far as to call it a crash. I did not see that one coming. And I understand the interest rate differentials and kind of the monetary system pretty well. But if you would have told me 4 or 5 months ago that the dollar would be at 96, I'd say, yeah, definitely possible, but it's not my base case, not my base case at all. And it has gone down, but as savvy investors, we need to, we can't look at that with bias. We have to just say, okay, why is it going down? And what does that mean for my portfolio? What is the signal the market is actually telling me right here? So, if you haven't seen those videos, I mean, we just zoom out to the last, now let's say year to date, and the dollars, look at this, plummet. Dollar down about 10%, maybe even a little bit more. In fact, I think it'll show it right here. Yeah, down 10.47% year to date. So I think this decline right here is due to the probabilities of the interest rate differentials decreasing. So ECB maybe more pausing, taking a hawkish stance, Fed more dovish because of the data was really softening in the United States. Even if you don't think that we were or are headed for a recession, it's just an objective fact. The data was softening, especially in the labor market. But then what did you see today? As you would expect, a better than expected job number, you get the dollar going up. And that, I think, confirms my suspicion that the moves that we've been seeing more recently in the dollar are all about those interest rate differentials. Okay, so getting back to, that's right. I wanted to go over to the Fed watch. So we saw that more recently, like yesterday, the odds of a rate cut for July, 23%. Now that's gone down to 4.7. Plummet, as you would expect. And I think this is why the dollar increased today. And obviously, you would expect interest rates to go up, which they absolutely did. And you would expect the 2-year to go up more than the 10-year, which it absolutely did. Pretty much right on line with what you would assume would happen if we had a higher than expected non-farm payroll in light of the just atrocious ADP numbers we saw yesterday at negative 33,000. Okay, so now what I want to do is zoom out a little bit because this is something that definitely pertains to the job market, not just now, but really moving forward. Over the next 3 years, I think we're going to see this at a rapidly accelerating rate. And there's no way this isn't going to impact the jobs market. No way. It's just to what degree is it going to impact the job market? So let's go over to the Wall Street Journal. And here we go. CEOs start saying the quiet part out loud. AI will wipe out jobs. So yesterday, the Ford chief, so I'm assuming the CEO, predicts AI will replace literally half of all white collar workers. So I don't think he's talking about Ford. I think he might be talking about everywhere. Let me see. Artificial intelligence is going to replace literally half of all white collar workers in the United States. Let's keep going here. What does that do to the non-farm payrolls? What does that do to the Fed's decision to pause, to hike, to cut interest rates? When remember, the Fed's dual mandate is employment, inflation. So let's just fast forward over the next 3 years, and let's say that we lose. I can't imagine over the next 3 years we'd lose half of the white collar jobs. But let's say we lose, 15%. Okay, where does that put the unemployment rate? Right? Answer: higher. Unless we have just a massive decline in the labor force participation that just offsets that. But I think a better way to say that would be, what does that do to the amount of people working in the United States? Because then you adjust, let's say, for the fluctuations in the amount of people, the labor force participation. But that's just white collar jobs. Like, we're talking about a lot of different jobs above and beyond that. And it just, all roads lead to the Fed dropping, I think dropping to zero, and they lead to UBI. Maybe not zero, but they definitely lead to UBI, and they definitely lead to the Fed, I think, going right down to probably where the ECB is now at 2%, if not lower, especially when you combine that with Trump just pounding the table for lower interest rates. So Marianne Lake, she is CEO of the bank's massive consumer and community business. Okay, so this is for JP Morgan. She said that she sees operations headcount falling by 10%. Makes sense. Comments echo job warnings from executives at Amazon. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy wrote in a note to employees in June that he expected the company's overall corporate workforce to be smaller in the coming years because of a once-in-a-lifetime AI technology. Smaller, yeah, that's an understatement. And think about that he is sending this note to his employees. So you would want to be overly optimistic, if anything. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei said in May, half of all entry-level jobs could disappear in 1 to 5 years, resulting in the U.S. unemployment rate of 10 to 20%. 10 to 20%. Keep in mind, that's outside of a recession. Professionals will need to accept the reality that few roles will be unchanged by AI. Misha Kaufman, CEO of freelance workplace Fiverr, wrote in a memo to his staff this spring. This is a wake-up call, he wrote. It does not matter if you are a programmer, designer, product manager, data scientist, lawyer, customer service rep, salesperson, or a finance person. AI is coming for you. So I want to mention this because obviously we're talking about the labor market in the United States. We're talking about what it's doing right now. But I think, with this zero hedge blowout number, but really what it's doing right now is this. We just go back to this GIF that we went over at the beginning of the video. This is the U.S. labor market. But keep in mind, guys, this is the U.S. labor market right now, with very little jobs being taken away by AI. You see where I'm going with it? So what happens to the jobs market if you got a guy, an AI dude right here with a knife that's just sawing at the rope? Because that's literally what's going on right now. Now, if you guys want to know how I am playing this, not just AI, but more so the dynamics we're seeing in the dollar, which I think represent what the expectations are for the jobs market in the United States, and what I think it's a representation of that GIF, what's happened to the dollar, and therefore the probability that the interest rate differential between the ECB and the Fed decreases. So I'm calling this the dollar playbook. And it's just a free video that I did, to me thinking out loud and kind of walking you through step by step this what I hope is an asymmetric trade that I put on based on the information, the signal that I think we are getting from the dollar right now about what is happening in the US economy. Again, this is a totally free video. We're just using it to build our email list. So you can just go to the link that Josh put in the chat. He'll put that in the description, and you can go over there and definitely check it out either tonight, tomorrow, or it'd be perfect to check out sometime this weekend. And again, I go over step by step exactly what I'm doing with this asymmetric trade that wasn't really my idea. I actually got it from reading the Market Wizards books, and it's a trade that Bruce Kovner, one of my favorites, used to put on quite frequently with a lot of success. So I won't divulge any more information. We won't let the cat out of the bag to get all the juicy details and research that we did, the charts, and then the trade step by step. You're going to have to check out that link that Josh put in the chat, in the description. And on that bombshell, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy your 4th of July, U.S. holiday. Get out there, have some fun, get some vitamin D, get some sunshine, some barbecues, hang out with friends, family. Forget about this crazy job market. Forget about the U.S. economy for a moment, for a weekend. Enjoy life. We've only got one to live. And as always, make sure you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism, and we'll see you in the next video.